Good evening. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 58th iteration of the North American Invitational Model United Nations Conference. My name is Grant Castle, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of the Board of Directors of the Georgetown International Relations Association, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting youth education in international relations by supporting Model UN activities and conferences such as NAIMUN. Typically, we would all be gathered in the ballroom of the Washington Hilton Hotel in DC, but I'm pleased to be able to experience with you all the first and hopefully last fully virtual NAIMUN. I would first like to thank our conference executives, senior staff, general staff, and JIRA team for their tireless and innovative work making this virtual conference possible. I would also like to thank all of you, the delegates, for remaining committed to Model UN and NAIMUN even in a virtual environment. Of particular note, let us thank your teachers and advisors, not just for making it possible for all of you to attend this conference, but also for their heroic work in finding new ways to teach and educate over this difficult past year. 4 years ago, when I was a senior in high school, my last Model UN conference was slightly delayed by a windstorm. At the time, I thought it was the worst possible thing that could happen to my high school experience. Yet all of you here today have had a far more difficult and unimaginable high school experience, with your Model UN activities affected by immeasurably more than just a particularly strong breeze. What began as a week off in March has extended into nearly a year of hardship, challenging both how we engage in education and interact with one another. Yet all of you are still here today. You have persevered through these tremendous challenges and have remained committed to debate, diplomacy, and international issues. The dedication you all have shown in writing position papers, researching topics, formulating your arguments, and putting on a suit with pajama pants in your bedroom, even amidst such hardships, is both incredible and admirable. The events of this past year, from the COVID-19 pandemic to the exposure of long-standing racial and social injustices around the world, and challenges to democracy here in the United States, have made it clear that the dedication and passion that you are all bringing to this conference, as well as the skills of diplomatic engagement, peaceful debate, and well-informed policymaking that you will be practicing this weekend, will be absolutely crucial as you begin to tackle some of these real-world crises someday. But for now, let us focus on Model UN and begin with NAIMUN. I am pleased to present the NAIMUN 58 opening video. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Secretary-General of NAIMUN 58, Alexander Chen.
Good morning, afternoon, and evening. On behalf of the entire Secretariat, I want to welcome each one of the 2,500 plus delegates, the 225 Georgetown staffers, and all of the advisors, chaperones, and guests to the 58th North American Invitational Model United Nations Conference. My name is Alexander Chen, and I am proud to serve as your Secretary General of NAIMUN 58. When Amy, your executive director, and I started this process in the beginning of March, the world was quite different, to say the least. Packed auditoriums were normal, social distancing wasn't in our daily vocabulary, and Zooming was just a verb to describe something moving quickly. Within days of the start of our tenure, the coronavirus began changing every aspect of our lives. First, university-sponsored travel was suspended, then all in-person classes were suspended, next campus was shut down. Through all of this, we were tasked with hiring our secretariat, our senior staff of 24 students dedicated to volunteering as much time and energy possible to make NAIMUN the best conference possible. At the time, our biggest concern was having to conduct interviews virtually. Weeks waiting for a return to normalcy turned to months. Initial plans for an in-person conference transitioned to plans for a hybrid, then transitioned to fully virtual. Through it all, one goal stayed the same: creating a conference experience that matches the substantive excellence, academic rigor, and educational programming that has made NAIMUN a premier Model UN conference over the past 58 years. Every year, thousands of delegates from around the world come together at NAIMUN to push themselves to analyze and debate issues around international affairs, diplomacy, security, politics, and the many challenges facing the world. While NAIMUN may look a bit different than in previous years, this year is truly no different. This year, we are proud to run 40 incredible committees at NAIMUN, each focused on important international and domestic crises. Each carefully crafted committee offers you an opportunity to invent creative solutions to real global issues through diplomacy and dialogue. You'll have the opportunity to learn more about the world through the incredible programming we're offering this year, ranging from lectures from professors and former diplomats to virtual embassy visits in which you may meet your real-life counterpart. I encourage you to take advantage of all that is available this weekend. Whether this is your first Model UN conference or your last Model UN conference, whether this is your first virtual conference or your 10th virtual conference, take the passion and curiosity that has brought you to NAIMUN and go for it this weekend. Make your voice heard in committee, go on a virtual embassy visit, or even try out guided meditation Saturday evening. You have a unique opportunity this weekend to meet students and diplomats from around the world, so seize it. With that, I'm honored to welcome our keynote speaker for this evening. Ambassador Barbara Bodine is a distinguished professor in the practice of diplomacy and concurrent director of the Institute for the Study of Diplomacy at Georgetown University. Ambassador Bodine's over 30 years in the Foreign Service were spent primarily on Arabian Peninsula and Greater Persian Gulf issues, specifically US bilateral and regional policy, strategic security issues, counterterrorism, and governance and reform. Her tour as ambassador to the Republic of Yemen from 1997 to 2001 saw enhanced support for democratization and increased security and counterterrorism cooperation. Ambassador Bodine has also served in Baghdad as Deputy Principal Officer during the Iran-Iraq War, Kuwait as Deputy Chief of Mission during the Iraqi invasion and occupation of 1990 to 91, and again in Iraq in 2003 as a senior State Department official and the first coalition coordinator for the reconstruction in Baghdad. Ambassador Bodine is the recipient of a number of awards, including the Secretary's Award for Valor for her work in occupied Kuwait. She is also a former member of the Board of Directors of the American Academy of Diplomacy, co-chair of the International Forum on Diplomatic Training, an associate fellow of the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Barbara Bodine.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm just, okay, there. Anyway, thank you very much. Grant, thank you. And I'm impressed again by your service and your sense of commitment and public service. Alex, it's been a pleasure to meet you. And I'm very honored to be included in this Model UN conference. And I have to say that I am astounded watching the number of participants go past 1,000. So thank you. As we were chatting before this started, these are difficult times and we're all having a difficult adjustment to this world. Pajama bottoms, mute buttons, screen freezes, and masks are nothing that any of us even contemplated a year ago. And the challenges have been more than just life on Zoom. It's been a very difficult year here in the United States and in many other countries. I have to say that at the end of a long week, watching your video has done more to make me feel better about the future than just about anything. So I want to thank you just for the passion and the curiosity and the commitment that you all demonstrate to debate, diplomacy, and engagement. But underneath that is a commitment to continue to try to make the world a better place for everyone to live. When then President-elect Biden was announcing his national security team, he famously started with "America is back." And then he introduced a dear friend of mine, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, who is nominated to be our permanent representative to the UN. And she added to that diplomacy is back and multilateralism is back. And they are, and they have to be. The commitment to work collaboratively with others around the world is the only way that either we in this country or others, that we are going to be able to solve the existential problems that face us. There have always been challenges and threats to security and prosperity, to human rights and to health. But they seem to have all come crashing together this past year. The commitment to re-engage with the world is the right and proper, and it's necessary. It's not just, it's the smart thing to do. How are we going to go about that? And can we actually re-engage with the world? Or to put it another way, will the world actually let us re-engage? We are coming out of a difficult time. We, or the United States, walked away from 13 different treaties, international organizations, and conventions, many of which were dedicated to the fundamental problems that the world faces. The World Health Organization, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, the Paris Climate Accords are just the most prominent of the 13. And at one point we were going to walk away from the International Postal Union, although no one could quite figure out either what it was or why we had to walk away from it. The re-engagement on these is critical. Every voice has to be represented. And even for those organizations that have problems, and I don't know a bureaucracy that doesn't have a problem, we are much better served by being part of the conversation than by just walking away. Nothing constructive is ever achieved by just walking away. There are those who would say that we have to take care of our own interests first. But when we tried to do America first, we ended up as America alone, unable to have our voice heard, unable to promote our values and our principles, and in many ways, unable to protect our national security. We have never been a truly isolationist power. Even before we were a country, we had diplomacy. Even before we were a country, we recognized the need to collaborate with others, to build alliances, to have allies, to have friends. And as some of my students, including Grant, may recall that, if we were going to win our own revolution for independence, we needed the help of many Europeans. One of our founding fathers, who is now far better known than he was just a few years ago, Alexander Hamilton, please don't start singing, understood that if we were going to survive, we needed to have trade and a strong economy. And then we have also been very much aware that to support our values abroad, to not go in search of monsters to destroy, but to support those on the same path, was also critically important to our survival and our ability to operate. And so the idea that diplomacy is back and multilateralism is back, it never really left. We may have taken a small pause from it, but it didn't leave. The complexities of the world demand people like you to become practitioners from whatever country you're from, to become practitioners, to become engaged, to bring that passion and curiosity to every single issue. There are the big ones, the fancy ones, the major powers. There are the small ones. I was ambassador to Yemen when it was a country that nobody could find on a map. But it has its own importance. It is an exciting career. It is a demanding career. It is a frustrating career, but it is a career where you understand why you're getting up in the morning. You understand what the objective is. And you may not always be able to see it immediately, but you know that if you're doing the right thing, you're doing the good thing, and that you are making the world better. What are the objectives of multilateralism? It's really just economies of scale. It's understanding that most problems cannot be dealt with domestically. Few of them can be dealt with bilaterally, and almost all of them are transnational in either their sources or in their impact or both. And we have certainly seen that with the pandemic. We have seen that with economic collapse, and we have seen it with terrorism. These issues and so many others demand that all of the best minds be brought to bear, that all of the best resources be brought to bear, and that there be a collective and a coordinated effort to solve these problems, or at least mitigate them, manage them, keep them from spinning out of control. It is just also a fact of life that we cannot isolate ourselves from the rest of the world. I'm not sure why we would want to. I'm not sure what good it would do it, but it doesn't do us any good. And it doesn't do any country that ability. No one has the ability to do that. Coalitions build strength, and not just coalitions run by great powers, coalitions of small powers. Some of the most effective players at the Paris Climate Conference were very small states who understood the importance of coalition building and of networking, and were able to together be able to move some larger, more reluctant states, such as the United States, to agree to terms and agree to benchmarks that we might not have otherwise. Diplomacy is also, yes, it is state-to-state relations. It's also state-to-people relations and people-to-people relations. Back in the Jurassic Age, when I first joined diplomacy, if you really wanted to do diplomacy, you had to join the State Department or your foreign ministry. Diplomacy is now practiced horizontally and vertically in so many different fora. It goes upward to multinational organizations, regional organizations, the EU, ASEAN, others. It moves down increasingly to the role of states and sub-state actors. Think of the role of California in climate change discussions. So there are now actors at the government level, but below the national, government level, but above the national level. And then there are the horizontal, the NGOs, the INGOs, some businesses, and their role as well. And these are all places where those who are dedicated to the concept of debate, diplomacy, engagement, all on the road to try to make it a better world, where your talents can be used and used effectively. I will wrap up because I know you have a lot to do, but I will say that it is extremely heartening to see over 1,000 students engaged in this rather unique, hopefully one time only, all Zoom conference, who are committed to global public service, who are committed to serving others, who are committed to ideas and objectives beyond themselves, and who can take a long look at what it takes to bring improvement. So my only regret in dealing with you all and dealing with students is that you all have your whole future ahead of you to do all of this. And I wish I could join you at the beginning of the journey and not just serve as a guide to what the journey may look like. So my best wishes to all of you. I wish you a good conference, and I look forward to seeing your names in bold print in a few years. So thank you all very much, and my best wishes to your conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Bodine, for sharing your experience and inspiring words with us. Good afternoon and welcome again. My name is Amy Lee, and I'm proud to serve as your executive director for this weekend's conference. When Alex and I took on our roles as the executives for NAIMUN 58, we came with big goals. We wanted to break the record for registration numbers, run the most committees NAIMUN had ever run, expand our conference internationally, and offer programming options that span the entire city of DC. When we eventually made the decision to transition this conference online, we knew that our usual metrics for success would no longer apply. A successful conference would now be one which mirrored the substantive excellence, academic rigor, and educational programming of an in-person NAIMUN. Our entire staff has worked so incredibly hard to make sure that this NAIMUN is the best NAIMUN possible for all of you, and that this NAIMUN lives up to what you all have come to expect from us. At NAIMUN 58, we're excited to welcome over 2,500 delegates from 8 countries around the world. We have over 200 Georgetown student staffers who are dedicating their weekends to overseeing 40 committees on topics ranging from the start of the Arab Spring in Tunisia to a fully integrated crisis simulation of the Korean War through our national security apparatus. We're also excited to announce that we have transitioned all of NAIMUN's usual slate of programming online, offering virtual embassy visits, lectures from Georgetown University professors, and delegate socials. Delegates will also have the opportunity to hear from guest speakers, all notable and experienced policy experts in the field of international affairs. Our staffers and I cannot wait to see what you all will do with the incredible opportunities awaiting you this weekend. If I could offer one piece of advice, it would be to take advantage of all the learning experiences waiting for you and to make the most of your 3 days here with us at NAIMUN. Thank you again for placing your trust and confidence in NAIMUN. 58 years later, we are still so grateful for your support. And now I'd like to introduce NAIMUN 58's charity partner, Relief International. Each year, NAIMUN is proud to partner with a conference charity. As delegates discuss and debate how to solve real-world issues in committee, NAIMUN's partnership with our conference charity allows us to have an impact outside of the committee room. This year, we are partnering with Relief International, a development and humanitarian nonprofit organization devoted to delivering life-saving aid to millions of people in fragile settings. Our fundraising will be directed specifically towards Relief International's health, water, hygiene, and sanitation work in Yemen, which is currently suffering from the world's worst ongoing humanitarian crisis, which has only been exacerbated by the effects of COVID-19. I hope you'll take some time this weekend to learn more about Relief International, and if you can, donate to support the great work they do. And now, I'd like to invite Alex to officially gavel in NAIMUN 58.
Thank you, Amy. I wish you all the best of luck this weekend. With that, it is my distinct honor to gavel in NAIMUN 58.